What happened in this one for you, Dave? Where did United get this game wrong more than Brighton got it right?
I think the main issue at the minute is the midfield, and it seems like we're so open to conceding opportunities and chances for the teams, and it's not just that; it's the lack of decisiveness in attacking areas as well. We don't seem to create a great deal, but the performance itself, I mean, for the first 20 minutes or so, I didn't think we actually did too badly, but then we had a lot of gaps that kept appearing in midfield, and we saw Brighton taking advantage of those wider areas where we really struggled to kind of get men over into those areas to help with the defensive side. I think we saw McTominay helping a lot on their left side, but he couldn't quite get over where we saw actually the first goal come from. You just don't know what you're going to get, what's going to turn up. There's no consistency. There's no rhythm at all. And you're looking for people to stand and be counted. And who are your leaders in that team? I mean, they're meant to be Bruno Fernandes. Lisandro Martinez, who's had an indifferent start to the season as well. I think he's looked completely off the pace. Casemiro looks like he's played 100 games
Shadow.
Summer. He looks a lot slower. So,
do you know what though, Dave? Before you go further, I do want to talk to you about that a little bit, because actually that was the thing I noticed about United this week, that after the international break, there were a lot of people sort of clamouring for Scott McTominay to come into the side because his form for Scotland was excellent, and I can understand why. He was put into the midfield as part of like a diamond almost, and I don't think that's necessarily the position people expected him to occupy. I think the thought was that he would kind of take the place of Eriksen maybe and offer some stability in the middle. And instead, United kind of sacrificed the right-hand side and took their winger out, because obviously we know there's issues with Anthony and Jadon Sancho right now off the pitch. So they're limited in terms of what they can do with selection. But is Brighton the right game to play such a narrow formation when you know how dangerous their wing-backs can be? And okay, they were missing Solly March in this game, but we'll talk a bit about the impact of Tariq Lamptey when he came in. You know what Matoma can do to you on that left-hand side as well. And United chose this weird narrow formation. So do we have to put some of the responsibility with Ten Hag for his selection as well? Because there's been a lot said about the form of Casemiro and the defensive players, but realistically, did Ten Hag get some of this wrong?
Yeah, I can see what you're saying, and I think he's not immune to criticism, and rightly so. Especially at Man United, but I think he went with probably his more experienced team. There were a lot of young players on that bench as well, and you have to weigh up the situation. You look at how many injuries United have got at the minute. If you don't play McTominay there in midfield, then potentially if you're going to play a midfield three, you're going to be looking. I think Hannibal was pretty much our only other midfield option on the bench.
No, I thought instead you'd see a midfield three of McTominay, Casemiro and Fernandes, and that maybe Pellistri would get a game on the right hand side and just keep that same formation. But it didn't seem like he wanted to do that.
Yeah, and he must have his reasons, and I think that's the annoying thing for me is we've seen Bruno play on the right, and he's nowhere near the player when he played more central.
I've got so much sympathy with Ten Hag in terms of the overall situation at the club. We've talked about it enough. We talked about it a lot last week and everything that was kind of going wrong behind the scenes. And I think there were massive signs of that again in this game. I think you look at someone like Victor Lindelof, he just didn't look up to it at all. I think he looked really poor next to Martinez, who you're right hasn't had a great start either. And when you consider the failure to invest in that area of the pitch over the summer, now perhaps that's because they failed to get rid of Harry Maguire as well. But we talked openly through the summer about their interest in Kim Min-jae, and they missed out on him and then didn't address that area. I feel like it's biting them now. I think, though, it's hard to say, but from my perspective, last week, yourself and Mike were talking about how you backed Ten Hag in the way that he dealt with the Sancho situation. Having reflected on it a bit more and looked into it a little bit more, I have to say, I wonder actually if I would side with the player a little bit more than we did last week. Now, the only reason I say that is I understand Ten Hag is trying to take this stance of no one's bigger than the club. You have to earn your place at United. And we've seen him deal with some pretty complicated characters. We've seen him remove Cristiano Ronaldo from the club, for example. However, I do wonder whether this situation has been handled in the right way with the current strength of the squad, and whether actually talking about Sancho so publicly last week was the right move in the first place. He'd obviously talked quite openly last year about Sancho's struggles with his own mental health, and from what I've heard, wasn't cleared to do that either. So you can see why Sancho might feel a bit, I don't know, aggrieved by his situation at Man United when he's got people like, at first Greenwood and now Anthony getting in the team ahead of him, and Ten Hag talking about the attitude needing to be right to play for Man United. I think I would want to speak out as well. And I think anyone in a workplace who feels like their manager is doing the wrong thing or representing the wrong ideal might want to communicate that. And the easiest way Sancho had to do that was to reply. I think everyone has a right to reply. And then in this game, when you feel like your squad is so short of talent, in fact, if Ten Hag was a good man-to-man manager in the way that we've been told he is, would he have not had his arm around Sancho and encouraged him back into the side in some way? Does Ten Hag have a lot of time? Is he under any pressure right now? Is there a part of you that wonders whether people will consider Ten Hag's role?
No, because the people above him aren't capable of making the right decisions anyway. They aren't capable of putting the right people. In fact, they shouldn't even be in the positions that they're in to make these decisions.